Bearcat Bounce Podcast. Back at it again. I turned my sights to Kansas City. Yeah, that's right. Kansas City, here we come. We're going to talk about that. Yes, we do have to talk about the stumble that was at the end of the regular season, the stumbling, fumbling, bumbling, rumbling, 0-2 close. Well, 0-3 close if you go back to last weekend. The rough finish to the basketball regular season. We're going to talk about that. But also today was the start of spring practice for the football program. Year 3 of the Scott Satterfield era. We're going to talk about that. So that's a good time to bring in the crew. Bring in the guys. We are fully assembled. BBP, assemble. Not the Avengers. Somewhat like them. But without further ado, Aaron Smith, Chad Brendel, Ryan Royer. Gentlemen, how are we?
Good. I got to spend a beautiful, sunny Monday afternoon at Nippert Stadium watching football. What possibly could be better than that?
Absolutely nothing.
The basketball team winning their last 2 games and going head on into the Big 12 tournament.
This guy out of here.
I mean, that would turn this show. the fastest
what a
rejection
start
we've ever had. The fastest rejection we've ever had. But that would be a absolute. Like, we would be coming on here like smiling and already starting to drink for St. Patty's Day if that was the case. But no, not quite yet. Not quite yet. But yeah, Chad, sunny today. That's reason for smiles after Saturday.
Sunny and mid 60s, and they're saying this is like the coolest day of the week. I mean, it was a wonderful afternoon. A good mental reset, Brent, on what has not been a fun January or March so far.
Yeah, that's a fair way to put it. So hey, shouts to the sunshine turning the frown upside down. I always tends to do that. A little vitamin D. Aaron, how are we, sir?
Doing all right. Got outside myself this afternoon with the girls. Took them out in the driveway. One was in the little walker, and the other one was on her little bike. So just out in the drive and enjoying the sunshine as well. So
you ain't got them hooping yet?
No, one's not even walking yet. She's in a walker. Like
Coach Trina gonna get the girls ready.
You ain't got to walk yet. Just get a little shimmy shake in there.
I like it.
We did.
We
play with some bubbles. We had like the bubble gun.
Oh,
okay, that's fun.
Bubble gum. Bubble gum.
She says bubble pop.
Wow.
Miss Rachel stuff. I'm just saying.
Miss Rachel,
does
she's
the dog come out and play with the bubbles?
Oh, the dog plays with football. We throw the football in the yard, and the dog goes and gets the football and brings it back.
Yeah, Airbud.
Yeah,
Airbud.
Where's the play school basket? You got to get the play school basket, Aaron.
Amen.
They would not survive these boys, I'm telling you.
Could you imagine Aaron getting an Airbud remake set in Athens, Ohio? I tell you what, man, that's Hollywood written all over it. I think you should give it a try.
Yeah, there'd be a Joe Burrow cameo for sure.
Oh, hell yeah. Heard that. Someone scare Royer. Royer, drink some water upside down, if you will. Mr. Hiccup, man.
We all good right now.
Okay, how are we, man? The boy.
I'm just hiccuping all the anger from this weekend out of me. So trying to get it all out before we break it down. But no, I'm good, man. Had a good weekend. Nothing too crazy happened. Just got to recharge. Excited to be here with you guys. Excited for football.
Hey, baby. Football.
Come on.
Back. Come on, baby. Yeah, we are going to talk about football. But first, we got to talk about it because we're setting our sights to KC, Kansas City. And if you're going to drive down there, you better hurry. You better get in the car right now. But before you do it, I don't know how early or how late Danco Joe is up. If Danco Transmission and Auto Care can hook you up before you head out, probably too late. Maybe you can get it really early and you just start hightailing as fast as you can. Probably won't make it though, but you could probably make it for Wednesday's game. The Bearcats are able to be victorious tomorrow in round 1. So head over to Danco Transmission and Auto Care. Get everything fixed up. It would be the best way to fire up the warm weather as well. Gosh. Nothing better than getting your car completely fixed, getting a fresh oil change right before the weather kicks in. Roll them windows down. Roy, I know you're rolling around in your Phantom, just windows down, music up, loving life. Golly, that's what I like to hear, Mr. GE. But if head over to Danco Transmission Auto Care, they'll get you hooked up. $10 off your next oil change, 10% off your next fixing. Say Chad Brendel sent you. Say Shana Bayev sent you. Say that say Ryan Royer and Aaron Smith and Airbud sent you. He'll hook you up.
Keyshawn Tillery? Did Keyshawn Tillery send you?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Colin Sexton talk and Keyshawn Tillery. How about that? And so
they look alike.
Yeah, tell him Colin Sexton sent you. See what happens. I think
I don't know that they necessarily play alike, but they do look kind of similar.
And they got that kind of little psycho game to themselves. Yeah, a little athleticism, little flair. But Danco Transmission and Auto Care. We love you, Danco Joe. Thank you for all you do. But we are live in the Cincy Light Studios. We got to dive right into what happened to drive everyone probably to partake in a handful of Cincy Lights, maybe a couple handfuls if that's the way you like to go. I tell you what, guys, I've been doing this all year where I do I run the little Bar Torvik numbers. You guys love when I do this. You look at me, you say, gosh dang it, Brent, you are so smart. Look at you with these Bar Torvik numbers. Gosh darn, you are so smart. So guys, did you know from February 3rd through March 2nd, February 3rd, that's one day after the debacle that happened at home against West Virginia, all the way to March 2nd, which was one day after the Houston game where the Bearcats gave all the fight in the world, still came up short. They were the 21st overall ranked team, according to Bar Torvik, in the country, and 13th most efficient offense over that 1 month stage. And boy, oh boy, did it come crashing to an end over the last week against 2 sub-500 teams, home against Kansas State, and then on the road against Oklahoma State. They crumbled in both of them and became the 164th ranked team in the country, according to Bar Torvik, and 301st in adjusted offensive efficiency through those 2 games. Yeah, extremely small sample size, but also extremely rough outing for the Bearcats this weekend. It was a loss, as we've already mentioned, to Oklahoma State, 78-67 in a game where they were down 18 at certain points in the first half. I don't know what to say after that. Chad and Aaron, you guys did the aftermath. So Royer, were you able to take in the rough one in Stillwater where they had a really, really loud Cowboy crowd there? Probably what was the attendance?
There's more people on this podcast than there were at that game.
Yeah, that's right. It was bad. But anyway, a rough loss, 2 straight losses. What a difference 2 weeks. 1 week you say you win these 2 games, win a couple in KC, you're right there on the bubble. Probably a good chance to get in. Now it's just like, what on earth is happening? Royer, clean up this mess for me, please.
I have to admit, I was switching between the channels. Was not a happy viewer. I think it was just you'd hope the team would have some pride and be like, all right, season's essentially over after dropping the game before. Just go out and play for each other. Play for the program. Give the fans something to at least be happy about. But it kind of just felt like the team just kind of rolled over and died. The final nail was put into the coffin of a very disappointing season going up against a very lackluster Oklahoma State team, and us just proving that, we're right among that group of lackluster Big 12 teams this year. It was just another reminder of, what a disappointment and a failure that this season was. So Yeah, just overall, just disappointing is the word, and that keeps coming back to, because, frustration can only last so long. It just kind of ventured really down into disappointment here towards the end of the year. And your expectations plummeted too. And, I expected, I wanted us to win. I thought we were a better team, just like a lot of the times where we lay an egg. It's been the case. But, after just watching the game as the minutes ticked by, you just kind of felt like this was a Bearcat team that kind of gave up on itself and didn't really show up and perform better than a team that they definitely are better than. But, yeah, just kind of – it was a perfect way to end the season, just kind of displaying how we've been playing down to our competition. And, that's kind of just wrapped it up in perfect fashion.
Yeah, down to the competition. Is it safe to say, Chad, Aaron, that the Bearcats might be that down competition, quote unquote? You look at the standings of the last two seasons combined in the Big 12, and it's only one team in the Big 12. Obviously, the four new additions this year, but only one team in the Big 12 has had a worse record over the last two seasons in conference play, and they've beaten Cincinnati 2 times. That's Oklahoma State. Everyone, UCF has the exact same Big 12 record. West Virginia has the exact same Big 12 record over 2 seasons. Everyone else has a better record. It's tough. It is not. It's tough to sugarcoat much anymore. We keep trying to find the silver lining, but in the end, is it just?
I said down because the potential we've proven at times, especially this season against good teams, that, we belong and we're right on the edge. And it's just always like we get right to the edge and we just fall off the cliff. I guess that's what I'm like. We all know that this was a good roster. The capability was there, and the effort throughout the year when we needed it most just wasn't there. We would string together a couple good games. I thought we fought and we showed that we belonged at Houston on the road, a tough place to play against one of the better teams in the country. And I think that's what I'm saying. Obviously, the numbers speak for himself, but I think we, throughout the year, we felt like, oh, this team is good enough. The players are good enough. If they play hard, they play Clifton style basketball, and they play up to their skill level, they are a tournament team. And the lack of chemistry, consistency, toughness, being able to fight through, adversity, I think it just kind of rolled over and died there in Oklahoma State, even though I think we have a better roster, and that's a game we should win, in my opinion. But
fairness, it's terribly difficult to defend this team. I don't like doing it because truthfully, I've grown to dislike this team very, very much over the course of this season. That all said, there were only 4 teams who finished under 500 at home, Cincinnati being at 500 or below at home. Cincinnati, UCF, Arizona State, and Colorado all finished at 500 or below at home. Only 4 teams finished above 500 on the road in conference play, being Houston, Texas Tech, Arizona, and BYU. And then Iowa State was 5-5. So this league is not easy to win on the road. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who you're playing, truthfully. For only
Oklahoma State
was
7-3 at home. All 7 of their conference wins.
Right.
They did not win a single game away from Gallagher-Iba Arena.
That's kind of the point that I was getting to. It's very, very difficult to win on the road, no matter who you're playing. Colorado's 3 wins. They only had 3 wins all season, and they all came at home. So it's like I said, just extremely difficult to win on the road, and I do not like defending this team this season. But
quick fun fact is you mentioned the home and road things. Oklahoma State had only won 1 road game in the last 2 years in conference play.
I don't want to talk about it.
It was Cincinnati who they beat on the road.
Yeah,
the only road win they've had the last 2 seasons in Big 12 play. So, yeah, Aaron, I definitely agree. Go ahead and keep going.
I mean, that's really all the point I wanted to get to was the fact that Oklahoma State was 7-3 at home. So it's not as if they hadn't beat teams at home. When you're winning over 50% of those games at home, they're a decent home team. I'd take 7-3 at home either year that we've played in this league. Unfortunately, it's not been the case.
Yeah. Chad, we've talked about and you and Dave have talked about it a lot as well. It's just the kind of the growing pains of getting into a new conference and how it becomes kind of a obstacle to get over to, adhere to the new thing. Well, this season, the team is 1-4 against first-year head coaches in Big 12 play. Is there and two of those were BYU. That's where the one win came from, and that's where kind of the NIL thing really peeks its head out. And then obviously 0-2 against West Virginia, and then 0-1 against Oklahoma State. Is it? I don't know. Is at this point, what is kind of the scenario to get over that hump? Because it just seems like yet again here we are talking how they were not able to get over the hump. Like Ryan said, they're right there on the edge, right there getting ready to take that step up, and then it just crumbles down right in front of everybody.
I mean, if you look at it, it's fairly simple. They have to start winning these games that they're supposed to win. If you go back to last year, they lose to 144 West Virginia and 117 Oklahoma State. If they win those two games, they finish 9-9 in the Big 12, and everybody is relatively happy with what happened in year one. And then this year, there's a lot more of them this year that leave you scratching your head. For the first Kansas State game, and then losing at Utah in a game you should have never lost. No showing West Virginia at home, and then losing to West Virginia on the road, which there's no shame in that, but that's if you're going to be serious, you can't get swept by a West Virginia team that is right in that same area as you, especially the way that it happened at West Virginia, having a chance to take control of the game and then just crumbling. And then season on the line, you lose to Kansas State at home and Oklahoma State on the road. Like, just that alone changes the entire dynamic. Even if they only win 3 of 4, they finish at 10-10, which that's me saying, look, do I think at some point in time, like, you got to jump up and beat better teams? Sure. But do I think it's likely for a team that's in the 40s? Do I think it's realistic for a team that's in the 40s to jump up and beat a team that's in the top 10, 12 of KenPom? No. Especially on the road. Like, you just go through and look at all of those teams. There's maybe one game where they have that something like that happen. You don't have to do that in this league, but you have to hold serve against the teams that are at your level and below. And they haven't done it. If you're not going to jump up and get the teams above you, and they've got BYU and they got Baylor, and they had a couple last year in that vein. But realistically, you can't lose twice to West Virginia. You can't lose twice to Kansas State. You can't blow that game in Utah, where you were the better team and you let them get out with the win. Just those 3, you're now sitting at 10-10, and instead, last year, 7-11 in an 18-game schedule. This year, 7-13 in a 20-game schedule. You did not meet expectations. You failed to meet expectations. I've seen a bunch of people throwing around. Chad said if this team didn't make the NCAA tournament, they failed to meet expectations. They failed to meet expectations. No shit, Sherlock. Like, that's not a breaking news. Nobody's like saying that this team met or lived up to expectations. They didn't. The reason that we're better than this than anybody else is because instead of throwing a fit and just rabble, we actually have normal discussion about what went wrong, why it went wrong, what needs to happen to fix it. Like, it's not just as simple as fire the coach. Okay, now what? He's not getting fired. So if fire the coach is the only thing we have to say, these are going to be pretty short podcasts.
I think it was almost like they were always in survival mode. There's never like a killer instinct on this team. It's like, and that's what's so surprising, that like the deterioration of that. And like, we're never really going to know like how Wes like is with the guys 24/7, everything he's saying and how the guys seem to respond to it. But it was always like, it always felt like, all right, imploring, we need to win this game because we've just like been in coasting survival mode, losing games we shouldn't lose. And it was just always like, when were we going to really just put our foot down and be like, this is the new us? Like, we always felt like, oh, we won that game. Like, let's build off that. All right, we won the next one. It was always, okay, well, that never really was our identity once this year. It was always kind of like coast. Oh, shit goes bad. Well, shit's going to go bad for a couple games. Then, all right, like, let's reset things here. Like, let's get on the right track. Let's change how we're doing this. Let's go play dodgeball or something. And, we win a couple games and then it's right back to square one. It's because it's just a coasting survival of average, and there's no killer dog mentality on the team. We have guys that have some good talent, but it's just lacking that like leadership, lacking the killer mentality that, what made Bearcat basketball like up to the prowess that, the standard that's been set. And that's just so shocking to me how, this coaching staff has struggled with that aspect, something that's always felt so natural. And, you can only get your players to do so much. And that's the constant thing we've been going back and forth about all year on the show is,
Ryan,
who's it on? The coaching staff? Who's it on? The players? And for some reason, neither of them could get on the same page.
I'm going to take you back to a perfect example of what you're talking about. AAC championship game, Houston, Nippert Stadium. Houston goes straight up and down the field the first two drives. And all of a sudden, Cincinnati's chances of playing for a national championship are in danger. What happened? What happened? Tell the people what happened.
No coach said anything. It was player-led. I believe we all know who that player was. He used to don the number 7, absolute dog. And
what did he do?
It was
Island.
Brought the whole defense together. He said, this isn't like, we'll keep it clean.
Riot act.
Yeah. And there's no one on what you're getting at. I already know there's no one on this basketball team that you would ever, you're like, oh, I hope they would. There's no one you could even look at and be like, yeah, that guy is going to do that. Absolutely. Because,
what happened after that?
Oh,
did Houston score again?
No, we beat the shit out of them. Yeah.
Jordan Blanco got a one-handed INT. That's what happened. Yeah. Come on now.
If you look across the roster, you have young guys and you have transfers. You don't have Bearcats. You don't have dudes who have been here. They know what it's about. And you have a coach who's from North Carolina. He comes from UNC. He was coached by a great coach. That doesn't really mean anything to being a Clifton style, what made Cincinnati great and all the legendary moments, all the legendary players. They all have one thing in common. It's tough, hard-nosed passion, leadership, grit. And it's really hard, especially in college basketball with the transfer portal, to really establish something like that because you have a limited number of guys. And it's almost a lot of the times it's you're trying to fill a team with rentals and fill pieces and spots where, oh, this guy's good at this guy's good at that. But it's really easy for the roster on paper to kind of crumble when it's kind of built on things that that are, what's the word? There's no like intangibles when you're putting together a roster like that of leadership. And
But
you
that's
guys could
the
speak. You
disappointment,
guys could speak
Ryan.
endlessly on the Bearcat legends. You guys obviously know so much about the stories, about the off-season workouts.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just kind of
But
rambling here. But that's such a
the
noticeable
disappointing
thing for me.
part. That's the disappointing part, is this is a returning team. This is not a new team. This is a team that, by and large, everybody was here last year. Like, and it just, nobody stepped into that leadership role. Nobody stepped up to be the guy.
Right.
And I mean, you had it with Dave DeJulius, I think. Like, that first team was kind of a rudderless ship. It was thrown together at the last minute, like, you know. But then year 2, DeJulius and Landers Nolly. And Landers Nolly was an asshole. Like not an asshole in life, an asshole when he was on the basketball court. Like, I told the story about him and Troy. I thought him and Troy Copain in that July, like, the veterans come back and scrimmage, the old guys come back and scrimmage the new guys.
Cuffs.
I thought him and Troy were and Troy did not shut up after the game in the dining hall, or like in the club section where they had like the post-game meal set up. Troy was across the room still talking shit to Landers, and Landers wanted to go fight him like on site. And then last year you had John Newman, who kind of had that like
He had some shit to him.
he instilled fear in dudes.
Yeah.
He held dudes to a standard. This is the standard. And if you don't get there, you got to answer to me. And that's what's not on this team. That's why I brought up that Kobe moment, because what you guys did in those first 2 drives, you had a historically great defense. And in those first 2 drives, it wasn't good enough. And there wasn't a coach that had to say a word. There wasn't another player that had to say a word. I've never seen anything like it, because it was literally every member of the defense and Kobe standing up on one of the benches, and every member of the entire, like 50 guys standing there, and Kobe reading them the riot act and saying, this, like, we're not going out like this. We didn't come this far. We didn't work this hard to lose at Nippert Stadium with a chance to go to the college football playoff. And the defense responded and went out and beat the shit out of Houston the rest of that game. Yeah. Who's that guy?
You guys were getting tanked out, by the way. But anyway, so is it, would sophomore year Kobe have done that same thing in that similar situation?
No, but you knew that you could see the type of person, player, leader he was. Right. I think there's like that, it takes room to grow, but you knew then that he was going to be that.
I'm just saying, like,
the difference being, Brent, there were older guys on those teams that would have done it.
No, I'm just saying, is this a trait that can be taught through coaching, or is this an innate ability that a human has?
I think it's passed down. I think it's
passed down. Like, it's passed down because the foundation of the program is built upon the right things, and that's what I'm questioning right now. It's Wes is a young, passionate, fiery guy. He recruits well. He's getting, he coaches hard. But for some reason, the leadership kind of development on this team is lacking. And I don't know how much of an emphasis he makes of that. I'm not, it could just be that the guys on the roster, they might have, looked over, how tough these guys are versus how skillful they look, how well they play in AAU tournaments and stuff like that. But it's hard. It's a hard thing. It's hard to get right. That's why programs that stay great for a long time, it's because they've built, you look at football, you look at basketball, like look at Michigan State with Tom Izzo. It's obviously, culture is so important. And I give Wes, it's hard. It's hard to do in college basketball right now, the type of situation the NIL portal has created. But, for me, it's, I don't know a shit ton about X and O's, obviously, with basketball, but
Yeah.
It comes down to like what we have guys that are capable of being good basketball players, capable of making shots, but for some reason it never really we would miss a bunch of shots, but we'd always kind of be in games in some ways, but it was always kind of like lack of rebounding, lack of toughness. Wes kept pounding his hand on the table about, I can't believe like that's the kind of toughness we showed tonight. Right. That message kept coming through over and over and over again. And that's something that just can't happen if you're a Cincinnati Bearcat in this town, like playing basketball. So, you know, it's easy for me to sit up here and do locker room talk and say, oh, we're not tough. But like, it just seems like that's what's missing. And Josh Reed, you know, everyone loves Josh Reed because Josh Reed, like, that was something that he always had. But you can't have like a guy that's, you know, he earns his way off the bench and he's playing above his talent level because he's playing hard, he's playing with passion. But that can't be the only guy on the team. It needs to be your best players. It needs to be guys like Jizzle, guys like Day, guys like Dan, Seamoss that fell off the map this year. Those are the guys that need to be involved in that type of stuff. And just seeing how none of them were really like that, it's alarming, and it makes sense to how we ended up where we were.
I'm kind of interested, like when you look at going forward, if a guy like Dylan has that in him, but there were so many guys ahead of him in the pecking order, right? Like Aziz was back, and Dan was back, and Seamoss was back, and Jizzle was back, and Day was back, and like it's hard to jump up and be that guy when you know you're pretty far down the you haven't climbed the ranks yet. Because I do think Dylan has some of that in him, but I just don't know if it was maybe misplaced with this group because it was an older group, and that's, you know, older guys generally don't take to new guys coming in and telling them like what it's about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but Chad, I'll give you a great example. Dino Boyd.
Yeah.
It takes a special type of guy, but it is possible.
Yeah. Chad, I'm going to peel back the curtain a little bit. In the Kansas State game for the post-game presser, were you guys asked who to have in with West? Because that was obviously the hardest game and the most difficult post-game presser that was going to be coming following. And obviously you don't give a lot of credence and whatnot to post-game pressers, but the fact that it was Dylan sitting next to him, I think, you know, is not something that shouldn't be completely overlooked. But still, it's just something in my mind is kind of saying like what Royer and what you were saying is the fact that, you know, maybe in certain scenarios your attributes that aren't just on the basketball court are kind of lessened because you feel like you have to take a bit of a backseat to the players that were there the year before you. You know, maybe the people thinking, okay, Dan's going to be the one that needs to take over.
Leadership works.
Do something. Yeah, and I mean, it is appalling. We've talked about the Dan thing for weeks, and it is appalling how much worse he's gotten development wise, just everything, as far as, you know, intangibles, somewhat leadership, this, that, and the other. But every single player took a step back, outside of Jizzle, whose percentages are the same, but, you know, raw stats are up a little bit because of, you know, extra minutes on the court.
I mean, Seamoss is essentially the same guy. Dylan is basically the same guy he was at Texas. Aziz was a slight improvement over a year ago. The problem was it's the risk, the inherent risk with the assumption that we're going to run it back and everybody is going to improve. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it blows up in your face. Sometimes you finished at 7-11 last year because you were a 7-11 roster in the Big 12. And if you run it back without really a whole lot of significant, you know, you traded out Newman for Dylan Mitchell. And really, in terms of like the guys on the floor, it was the team from a year ago, plus Dylan subbed out for John Newman. And everything else was essentially the same. Right. And they performed almost exactly the same as they did a year ago. Sometimes that assumption, it's like one of the things we talked about outside of them not having a top 100 player. Like that was my big concern going into the season. I voiced it on every show. I voiced it on Mo when I hosted radio. Like that was my concern for this team. The other concern for this team was, where does the shooting come from? If you're still relying on Dan, 28% last year, Jizzle 28% last year, and Day 28% last year. Like you're just counting on, okay, well, those guys, because it's a year farther in their development, they're all going to get better. Day got better. The other two didn't.
Day got a lot better.
Yeah, but he also lowered his volume. He wasn't taking nearly as many threes, like heat check type silly threes that he took a year ago. So why does your percentage go up, Brent? Usually because you take better shots. Not because you became a better shooter, but because you learn more what a good shot is. And if you eliminate some of the bad shots, then your percentages go up just on that alone. Like that, credit to Day because he did do that. But the other two didn't. So you put a lot of chips on the table on a hand that wasn't, you went heavy bet pre-flop on ace 10 offsuited. Right?
Yeah. You add in the other fact that I mean, you say Seamus is kind of the same player, but he was really, really bad from three in Big 12 play. I mean, 28.7. That's 10 percentage points less than what he was last season from three in Big 12 play. And
a lot of that was right at the end. I mean, it was a lot of like 2 of 10, 3 of 10, 2 of 9, 3.
Right.
Like his percentages dropped pretty substantially towards the back half because they needed him to get 3-point shots off, and he was not connecting on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's something as well when you don't have that true leader on the court that can kind of just take everyone from this level to the next level, like Kobe was able to do in the scenario that you guys mentioned. I think that's when you kind of don't get the exact mesh and the exact flow that you need in those games. Like that Kansas State game is deplorable. Like it's horrible.
It's awful.
Like
it's awful.
That was probably the worst feel, and you could just see Wes just afterwards, and I understand him apologizing, but I don't think he needs to apologize. Everyone saw what was going on, but I mean, in today's day and age, I guess you have to go up and apologize. But in the same sense, it's like that it's March. You have a chance to play in the NCAA tournament, and right now, if you look at it, if they would have won those 2 games this past week, it's a moot point now. But if they would have won those 2 games, they would be on the right side of the bubble. They would be. They would be,
or they'd be right there at they'd be right at the cut line. Yeah, and we would be talking about tournament basketball through this week. We would be hell bent today. The entire thing would have been what needs to happen for them to get in,
and it would maybe be just win 1 or 2 games, like that simple. The cards fell. I mean, right now that team from Norwood's looking like they're going to get. It's just the whole thing is just really makes me very sad. But I'm not going to let it ruin my time completely because football just started, and I'm so excited to talk about that. I mean, it's obviously we'll talk about a lot more about roster construction and what changes need to be made, this, that, and the other. But I don't want to harp on this too much longer because
next week we're gonna have a lot of time.
Yeah, we are going to. So just real quick, guys. Obviously, it's a quick turnaround. Obviously, it's the same scenario as last season. Last year, you wallop West Virginia at home on senior night, and then you play them in the first round of the Big 12 tournament, and that was a heck of a game, like in a horrible way and then a great way because they were down 16 in the second half or something like that, and come all the way back. Seamus and Day are unconscious from 3, and it's just. Oh, baby, it was a game that was just insanity. And then obviously you play Kansas the game after that when they beat Kansas by 20. I don't care. Hey, Aaron, who was out for Kansas in that game, right? Who was out?
Everyone. What do you mean who? Everyone.
Right. But we don't remember the names. That was so long ago. But we won by 20. We beat Kansas by 20, and then obviously beat Baylor was an L. So looking into this week, Royer, Aaron, Chad, it's hard to really muster up much of like let's just string together 4 wins and baby. But I mean, what would you like to just see? I mean, it's a hard question to ask, but it's right here, 12:30
I mean, let's
tomorrow.
be honest. If they beat Oklahoma State, they're not beating Iowa State on Wednesday.
Yeah, it'll be a tall task. Absolutely.
So,
I mean, is it too late to say like show some fight? Like, I mean, is it?
Sure,
is it,
sure, show some fight. That's what we've
mean,
gotten to. That's what we're reduced to. Show some
right.
fight.
Well, I mean, it's just crazy that
moral victory.
Right. Crazy Kansas State happened, and then all of a sudden after Oklahoma State, it was like I finally had to start, cutting some, taking people out because of their lack of effort and things like that. It's like it took game 31 for that to become a standard. It's just like,
crazy. Here's the real question, Brent. Are you going to be able to hold back from betting on them?
I've already placed a bet. 5.5 is what it opened at, I believe. Come on, man. Let's go Bearcats. Red and black till I die.
You're sick, man.
Royer, what do you want to see, man? Do you want to see a little bit of Bearcat blood out there? Get a little grimy, get a dub or two.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'd like to see. I mean, I don't know if that's consistent with what I've been seeing from this team, but it'd be nice. For me, it would be a confidence builder just in Wes Miller. It's like, can you get your guys to play for you when can you get your guys to play for you, play hard, play tough in a game that is very bleak and it's been a disappointment, letdown of a year, and it's been a struggle to keep your guys engaged, tough, nasty, everything they should be. If you can get them to do that now, when it's probably the hardest time to get them to do it in a 12 versus 13 seed game was that what it is? Whatever the hell.
Yeah, we finished 13th, and we're playing the 12 seed Oklahoma State.
If you can get that's a good confidence builder in me for Wes, because like Chad said, too bad everyone's screaming fire Wes, but we got him for another year. That they can show some fight, and then they can go punch for punch with Iowa State. That's what I want to see. I'm not getting my hopes up, so
like you said, Roy,
I'm going to root my ass off for him.
We've already been told Wes is back next year, so we're fans. We're some of us diehards. Let's rally around him, man. Let's screw the crap. I'm done with that little down in the dump feels. Let's try and get some dubs.
Iowa State was only 6-5 on the road and 2-1 at neutral sites. Just saying.
What? Oh, you brought up a Crown question.
If UC goes into the Crown, are the players forced to play? No. Is it possible they can't play the Crown? It is not possible. They are playing in the Crown tournament. Come hell or high water, whatever they got to do.
The Crown thing is absolutely ridiculous, by the way.
They have to play in that tournament. They will be selected to that tournament, regardless of what happens on tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week. They have to play in it. They are going to play in it. Also remember, though, guys can go in the portal and still play in this tournament. I don't have a concrete answer on this, but my understanding of this Crown tournament is that there are NIL dollars at stake, and the amount of NIL dollars increase with every game you win. So, like the opening round, I think it's like go get yourself a nice dinner in Vegas type deal. Maybe not even that, like dinner for one somewhere in Vegas. And then it increases every level that you win to where the team that wins the Crown, I believe, gets a pretty good chunk of NIL money for the players. So there is incentive to go play, even if you are in the portal. Will these guys want to do that? I don't know. There are a million questions I have about this stupid ass tournament, but my understanding is Cincinnati is playing in the Crown unless something crazy happens in the net standings, because they were 20-something spots clear of being out of that, depending on who makes the – I mean, but they're higher in the net than West Virginia, and West Virginia is going to get in the tournament. So they are going to play in the Crown. I don't see any way around that for them to not play in that tournament. And you're going to have to take what you're going to have to take. Now, like I said, there could be a situation where some guys decide to play in it, even though they're going to enter the transfer portal, whatever the case may be. But I don't think there's any contractual way. You could say we've got 2 guys, and they're going to say, well, you better call the football team, or you better call somebody and show up with enough dudes to play in this tournament.
Royer, did you know? Royer, I don't know if you knew this, but did you know that the Crown will play its first round of games, its first set of games of the Crown, when the Final Four is set? When the Final Four and the entire big tournament is set,
so
that's when the Crown
begins. The Elite Eight ends on Sunday, the 30th. The first day of the Crown is Monday, March 31st. And that was the whole idea of the tournament, is there's not going to be any basketball on. So we'll make up this tournament to play during this week where there's no basketball on. And it should be a ratings bonanza. Ain't nobody watching that shit.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, I guess it's just pulling at straws, just trying to get every last bit of advertising money you can get out of the lackluster viewership. Because that's just going to be such like a buzzkill. It's like everyone's like, oh, freaking, because that Elite Eight weekend is epic, and then it's like, oh, let's go watch some shitty basketball now. Maybe it's just like, oh, this is going to get us like, I don't know what they were thinking. Like, oh, maybe we're watching just shitty basketball. It's just getting me more excited knowing it's going to get even better for the Final Four. But yeah, I don't love that. It's such a long time too.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's weird, but you know what? It'll happen. But first things first. 12:30 tomorrow. Oklahoma State redemption. Let's go. And 2 quick things before we leave.
A little cubicle basketball. That's a positive for being such a shitty Big 12 team this year. The fans get to watch them.
Get that box button ready. You know what? I used to hate those opening rounds of the big power conferences, like those first early games. It's like, gosh, who are these? Boston College and this, that, and whatnot. I'm still feeling the same way, but guess what? We get to watch a little Bearcat basketball, and however you feel this way about them right now, it's still going to be available to watch at 12:30 tomorrow. And one last thing, it says Dan Skillings had 0 rebounds on Saturday, right?
That's what it said.
Yep, he got a tip dunk at the last point of the game, right?
Yeah, they probably just weren't even bothering.
Even the statistician stopped watching.
Yeah. The statistician was like, I'm done with this shit.
I mean, it's just funny because they marked it as a made jumper, so that's a pretty fun thing. Funny thing there. Also, Rayvon, good offensive play on that dish down low to Aziz. And one last thing, they better not let a walk-on score on tomorrow afternoon. Just don't allow it,
or else.
But let's go ahead and timestamp this. I'm ready to riff.
This timestamp brought to you by our good friends at Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company for all your non-food products. They service over 150 restaurants with weekly low minimum next day deliveries. They provide a wide range of food service products, from to-go containers, cups, custom printed products, eco-friendly, and much more. They also have cleaning and restroom supplies for all your janitorial needs. Call Nick 513-470-2029 and reference Bearcats for 20% off your first month of purchases. Brent, I got a question for you.
Ready.
Are you ready to sponsor Riffin' with Royer?
Ooh.
This new Riff, that we had a deal, a 1-year deal that runs through the end of the month.
That's correct.
So we will be looking for a new sponsor for Riffin' with Royer. You own a company. So do I need to solicit for advertising, or are you gonna jump in and
Shoot. We'll have to
pony
have
up for riffing with
have
Royer?
these conversations behind closed doors. These doors are too wide open right now. There's some big time behind closed doors combos. But hey, so what are we like riffing with? Are we just
for the rest of this month? Like we're
are we
still
just
good for now.
roaring with
Like,
Royer?
they're still a sponsor through the rest of this
Okay.
month. So I mean, I'm just saying, like once we hit April, like this segment is going to be in need of a title sponsor. So I wanted you to have the first crack at it since it is your favorite segment. I just wanted to give you an opportunity. But New Riff, fiercely independent and unabashedly innovative. They produce award-winning bourbon, rye whiskey, and gin at their distillery in Newport, Kentucky. The Aquafire Tasting Room, located on the 3rd floor of the distillery, features cocktails, flights, and pours of New Riff's entire line of spirits, including rare, limited edition, and distillery exclusive releases. Bearcat Journal listeners can save 50% on distillery tours when you use the code BEARCATS24. For more information or to book a tour, visit newriffdistilling.com. If you've been waiting on getting that tour, like the promo runs through the end of the month. So
better damn hurry up.
Yeah.
Better get your booty there. Watch a little, maybe that first Thursday of the tournament. Watch the Bearcats play their game against someone. Probably not. Go ahead, Ryan.
All right. I guess we were flirting with this earlier, talking about toughness. It was just my first question, I think, strikes right at it. What ultimate Bearcat tough guy legend? Look past skill. We want Oscar Robertson, we want Kenyon Martin. What ultimate tough guy would you insert into this lineup immediately? Do you think would have the biggest impact?
Go ahead, boys. I know my answer.
Eric Hicks.
Good one.
That's a good one.
Titus Rubel's a close second.
I mean, shoot, Kenyon Martin was a tough guy. Give me Kenyon Martin, or do you want me to go for a little bit?
It could be. I was just trying to emphasize. Just don't put like our best players of all time.
Let's see here. I think Chad, you're probably going Rashad.
Nope.
You're probably going Jaquan.
Nope.
Jason Maxiel.
Played with Kenyon. He was the tough guy on that team.
Oh, Pete Michael.
Mm-hmm. You
nice.
Put Pete Michael on this team, it's a whole different team. Because Pete Michael put the fear of God in. Like Pete Michael wasn't a dude to be messed with. The Kobe stopper.
Yeah. Well,
Pete Michael made a whole
was Reuben Patterson.
Or Reuben Patterson, sorry. But Pete Michael did come over in like those exhibition games and put the clamp on Kobe a couple times.
Yeah, that's right.
If you don't know, Ryan, Pete Michael was like the wing forward on those teams. Good scorer, tough as nails, great defender. He went on to play for FC Barcelona forever and made millions and millions and millions of dollars. And like the NBA was trying to get Pete Michael to come back. And Pete Michael was basically like, I live in Spain. Like I live in Barcelona. I'm getting paid millions of dollars. I'm good. Like I don't need the NBA. I am living life as well as life can be lived. You put the other one I would put on this team, Brent, Emmanuel McElroy.
Yeah.
IMAC.
Yeah.
Another just incredible toughness, leadership, do the dirty work.
Right.
Like not ask for a single bit of the praise, not ask for a single bit of the credit, but go out there every night and get shit done. Give me one of those two guys on this team to smack some people around. And if they really needed toughness, give me my guy Titus Rubels to put in this locker room because he would have fought all these dudes.
Yeah, he would have.
He would have been kicked off the team.
Probably.
He would have lost his whole mind, been kicked off the team. The videos from people's phones from what he did to them in the locker room would have made national headlines.
You're probably right. He would have murdered
would have
somebody.
Would have been a presidential order against Titus Rubles.
It would have been Baylor all over again. He'd have murdered a teammate.
Maybe
Man.
Pete Michael. That's who I'm going with.
I think a big who can score a little bit is nice. Fortin was a bad dude. He had a little bit of grit to him.
Danny, well, like
and
Danny, you
score
just
the
threw him
damn
the ball.
Yeah,
You just threw Danny the ball and got out of his way.
right. Maybe T-Rat. He had some yuts to him. I feel like all of the old Bearcats had a little bit of an edge to them. So I think you can literally throw anyone in there, Ryan. Like Aaron said, the whole Eric Hicks, Jason Maxiell, like imagine them just in that final huddle against Kansas State being like, listen, it's effing done. It's done. Let's go out there and win. It would happen 100%. So I like it. Good question, Ryan. Gosh, you're so good at this.
All right. Second question. Let's go right over to football. Who is your favorite one-on-ones matchup you're looking forward to start spring ball? Wide receiver versus DB.
Caldwell versus McDoom. That's the new one-on-one. That's the new number one wide receiver, number one corner. We got it a little bit today. Caldwell, how that dude was at Longwood doesn't make a single bit of goddamn sense. Lindenwood, I mean. How that happened.
Dad loves thinking about Longwood.
Yeah,
I know. Pause. Hyper pause.
But maybe there's some things as the spring goes on. Like he did have one today where there was a kind of a jump ball down the sideline and he didn't time it right. It looked a little bit awkward. So, maybe going up and getting those 50-50 balls is something that we'll continue to monitor from him. But he's 6'5". He's 210 pounds. He has a 38-inch vertical. He broad jumped 11.9, which would be the third best broad jump all time at the NFL Combine. And he ran 22.5 miles an hour in their speed testing. Linden.
Those are all really good.
What? Like, he's a freak. He's every bit of 6'4", 6'5". Like, and then McDoom, just tough dude. Wants to get up and challenge you. Doesn't look like he's a guy that wants to play back in zone coverage. Like, wants to get his hands on you. Wants to be a little physical and not batshit crazy. So I'll take that as a plus.
And this is more Aaron's thing, but McDoom posted his body transformation within the couple of months that he's been here since transferring in, and the dude looks ready to go out and lay some McBoom as Mr. Matthew McDoom. So I agree. Bearcats fans, I love it. Lights are so bright. But as far as one-on-one, I feel like that's got to be the only answer. I don't know if they're really,
you could do one of the safeties against like Tony Johnson,
right,
or one of the safeties against Joe Royer. Would be interesting to see, who's going to be that can stop a tight end lining up out wide, or one of those like Harrison versus Royer, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
I'm just trying to help you out.
Well, I mean, I'm not. To be honest, I'm excited to read the practice reports and get the inside intel from you, because I would say Tony Johnson, is he still in the slot? Is that where they had him today, or?
He was. I mean, they were moving guys around a little bit today because they don't have a whole lot installed yet. Yeah. My guess would be you'll probably see him a good deal in the slot. Cyrus Allen probably being the other starting outside guy with Caldwell. And then, what
about Goody?
Didn't see him a ton today. He did have I think I had him down for getting a pass broken up by Armani Arnold on the sideline. One of those, like, he went up and got it and had it caught. And as he was coming down, Arnold came in and kind of punched it away, sent the whole sideline going crazy. But yeah.
I like it. Aaron, what you got?
Just curious to see, more so than any wide receiver versus a defensive back, Brendan Sorsby versus any defensive back. Can you throw more than 25 yards? Please. Please.
You would have been happy today, Aaron. They probably threw 15 go routes.
Good.
Like, there was one segment in team that I like 7 passes in a row were 50 yards down the field. 40, 50 yards down the field.
Gonna need
Just
shoulder
drop
surgery.
back.
Gonna need shoulder surgery before
Wow.
the season starts.
Sat was joking about it afterwards and said, look, it's day one. Like, we're still installing a lot of things with all these new guys, but you know what you don't have to install? Run fast. Run fast down the sideline, and let's see what we got.
Love it. Love it. Royer?
What? Next one?
Yeah.
You ready? By the end of spring ball, give your prediction on which coach opens up the playbook more and you see a little bit more wrinkles. Coach Satterfield or Coach Veit?
More than what we saw last season, I'd say Coach Veit, because I don't think we saw anything compared to what you can do after having installed a defense in that second year. Only because it's not a fair comparison. As far as percentage difference, who opens it up more? Maybe you see Sat do some different things. I don't know, but
the way I guess a follow-up, the wide receiver upgrades, if we're able to see a little bit more concepts, see Sorsby be able to extend his range out a little bit more, hoping we have a little bit more, separation competency out wide.
Fair. I still think defense is going to be more.
One reason I would lean heavily to Aaron's point of view here is this is only Veit's second year as a defensive coordinator. Like, he is still learning what he is as a defensive coordinator. Sat has been calling plays for a long time. So, getting Sat into a new realm that he hasn't explored already is going to be a lot more difficult than getting Veit comfortable enough to maybe be a little bit more aggressive and know, like, okay, I feel a little bit more confident. I can send somebody here, not worried that it'll disrupt everything back there. So I think the easy answer here is Veit, just because I think there's a lot more variable to what he, as he becomes a more finished product as a defensive coordinator. I think you guys, you'd probably talk about it with Marcus Royer, that Free those first 2-3 years was like scrolling through the Rolodex of things that might work and might not work. And then by year 4, like, it wasn't too exotic anymore. It was, this is who we are. This is what we're going to do. We fucking dare you to beat us.
What was the thing that Dangle kept saying? He's like, I think about out of a 1 to 10, as far as the installation of the defense in this, is about a 6. And he kept saying that last offseason. So, my guess would definitely be defense. Would have a lot more install, because what was Veit kept on preaching that he wanted to get the fundamentals completely down, get a certain set of things mastered before he moved on to more, and hopefully those things are slowly mastered and he is ready to install a little bit more.
You like to think you're going to have a pass rush of some sort this season too. So how much more of the playbook would having a defensive end that can get into the backfield in any type of regularity? What does that open up for your playbook?
A lot.
Yeah.
Whole heck of a lot. What do you think, Royer? Which one are you thinking?
I'm hoping it's defense, but if it is offense, then I'm going to be more excited, so to say, because I think the natural growth on the defense, coaching staff, and player is going to be there, and if offense is able to surpass that, I think that just shows the steps Sorsby's taking. It shows that the receivers are clicking, and we made the right choices there. So I'd be more excited if offense took the cake.
Heck yeah. You got one more for us, brother?
I like when you kind of segue us on this final one. You want to go ahead for it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, sure. You sure you want me to say what you were saying?
Yeah, go ahead, man. Who cares?
All right, I agree. Who cares? Because you were saying, hey, St. Patrick's Day, bro, what's coming up? And I said, yeah. You said, hey, man, what are you going to do? You going to dye your beard green? I'm thinking about doing it. And I said, really? Is that what you're going for? What's your plans for St. Patrick's Day? Can you lay out the perfect St. Patrick's Day weekend for me? And you said, whoa, Brent, you tell me, what is your perfect St. Patrick's Day weekend? Because it's coming up this weekend. And I said, what, past or present? Are we going all the way in the past or all the way in the present? And I said, let's just ask this in the BBP. Go in the past. What is your favorite St. Patrick's Day memory? Or what do you got planned for this weekend for St. Patty's Day? And I said, okay, that's a perfect BBP. Happy, joyous, cheerful St. Patty's Day. What you got lined up?
Hey, call me the Dropkick Murphys, Brent. I'm shipping up to Boston.
No
I'm
way.
gonna be in Boston. I leave
No way.
Friday morning. Yeah. My brother lives up there, so my sister and I caught a flight. We're gonna go have a little siblings weekend. It's probably gonna be a shit show up in Boston, but I think last year is my favorite. I went to Chicago with a bunch of my college friends. We went on this booze cruise around the bay of Lake Michigan, and then right around the Green River. It was really fun.
Dye that river green, baby.
Yeah.
St. Patty's Day is unreal. Unreal. Aaron, I feel like you've got a great past St. Patty's Day.
There was one year where we started early. I ended up falling asleep eating green Skyline at Skyline. No big deal. I was just really tired. It's fine. This year though, Rachel will be welcoming a niece. There's a due date on St. Patty's Day, so we'll see if she makes it to due date or if we end up early. But as of now, we're expecting a new niece on St. Patty's Day, so that should be fun.
Are you guys going to name her maybe Patty?
No, that's dreadful. No one wants their kid named Patty.
That's torture, lining it up.
Fair enough. Well, congratulations. Chad, what you got?
My favorite St. Patty's Day was, I can't remember exactly the year, probably 07, 08, something like that. It snowed like crazy on St. Patrick's Day. And we lived in Newport at the time on 5th Street. So Kelly hit me up and said, we're leaving work. She worked downtown. She said, everybody's leaving work and we're going to O'Malley's in Covington.
Oh, yeah. It's a good spot.
In a snowstorm. It snowed like probably 4 or 5 inches, 6 inches that day. Like it wasn't like a blizzard, but it was a good snow.
That is a lot of inches, like 4 or 5 inches. That is a bunch of inches.
I was just about. It's a lot of snow.
So much snow. Like, wow.
The most snow I've ever seen in my life.
Massive amount of snow.
So we went to O'Malley's and
it gets the job done. The snowplows still have to go, my friend.
Exactly. Yeah. Take a lot of work to shovel that. A lot of work. Sweating.
Seems like not a lot, but when you have it, you're like, oh, that is a lot of snow.
You're like, holy moly.
I was
more
wrong.
than I anticipated. Yeah.
Well, you two shut up. Jesus Christ. So I sat at the bar and drank like 15-year Glenlivet for, I don't know, 8-9 hours. This year I will be in Louisville for a volleyball tournament. So
Fantastic.
I'm not going to have a lot of fun this year.
I, like you guys, freaking love St. Patrick's Day. It's like whenever it's a reason to kind of get fired up, feeling like it's going to be a little bit more of a, oh, the weather's turning nice. Let's put on our green and go have a little fun. Wear your patty cap. I'm going to be all decked out next. Are we doing a show next Monday? That is St. Patrick's Day itself. Are we doing it?
Yes. Yes, we're doing a show.
I'll wear green. Let's all have our green beer ready. We'll have a blast. But it's normally a parade with marshalling, and then you take that to there's a couple Irish, bars that some families that I know own back in Indy. And boy, they fly in a band from Ireland, and the place is just lit. Enough pints of Guinness to just drown you into the souls. And I tell you what, basketball's on, so you get a little fired up. Most of the time, there's a game downtown at Indy, so I just am lit, and I go to that game, and I saw St. Peter's upset Kentucky one year. Live bet Kentucky about 20 times and just cried about it the entire next day. And it's always the most fun. I love it. This year, there's a local town doing the same thing, a big old St. Patty's shebang, and I have a lot of fun. Always a joy. Break it down.
Love it. We're only a couple weeks out from opening day, too.
Yeah. Well, we're right around the corner, man.
That's right around the corner. Fun day in Cincinnati, too.
Yeah. Gosh. I love this segment. We'll have to figure out what's next.
Unbelievable.
Let's go ahead and timestamp this. Luck of the Irish.
Oh. That timestamp brought to you by Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company for all your non-food products. To-go containers, cups, pizza boxes, to-go bags, can liners, napkins. They've been open since 2009 and are one of the largest minority-owned companies in the city. For more information, call Nick, 513-470-2029, and reference Bearcats for 20% off your first month of purchases.
Boom, baby.
Oh, my God.
Well, we
you guys are too much sometimes.
We kind of already alluded to it, but day one of spring practice in the books. Before I pass it over to you, Chad, of what kind of you took in. I know you got some notes up on the board as well. Kind of want to dive into a little bit more particulars. Ryan, I'm going to pass it down to you. What was day one of spring practice even like for players on the team? Was it just like, oh gosh, here we go?
It is literally you just know it's like, all right, the beginning of hell has begun. Because it's always a lighter day, so you're in. Do they still wear the shells with Coach Sat?
They will, I think, when they come back. Like maybe the last day. Like you have to do the first 2 days in just helmets.
Yeah,
and then they'll do the spider pads, and then when they come back from spring break, they'll be full pads.
It's exciting, like when you're in the drills and playing ball and on all that, but just like the stretching line, you're just like, holy shit, the pain has begun.
Well, yeah, because it really doesn't stop until the end of the season. Like once spring ball starts, you get a little bit of a break in the summer, but like it is full go towards the season once you get to spring ball.
Yeah, and it's always hard. Spring ball is the hardest because it's like you aren't playing games until end of August. So it's like it's the beginning of a lot of prep, and you really got it's the guys that really love the game. They really show out and improve a lot in spring ball. So it's definitely the hardest time of the year is spring practice, in my opinion, because you're so far away from actual games, and you're not in camp when you're like grinding for like a true, like trying to make the starting or like the 2 deep, and you're not like going at it in scrimmage for the first part of it. So it's hard, but it's also the best developmental time too. Like a lot of guys get a lot of reps, get put in a lot of different positions, you definitely you see the most improvement in your game, I think, at that time period. So hopefully a lot of guys feel that way and they get themselves ready to make some jumps because we need it, man. We need to make a big jump this year, and it starts now.
Chad, you kind of already touched on Caldwell, but obviously all roads lead back to Brendan Sorsby and how Brendan Sorsby looks. Did you notice a little difference in year 2? Was he kind of a little bit more of a leadership role, a little bit more of a comfortability out there? I mean, obviously you were there for
No, I did not notice it in 2 hours of practice. I did not notice.
Oh my gosh, shoot. Oh, man. This is not going to be good. But
I mean, it's like Ryan said, it's a lighter day. Like it's
right.
You don't have pads on. It was a lot of, like I said, it was a lot of just throwing the ball deep today. They didn't do a whole lot of team and 7-on-7. Like you're just not going to cram a bunch of that stuff in because, like Ryan said, you're not preparing for anything. So a lot of it is install. A lot of it they're with their position groups and they're doing fundamentals, and then you break out into like offense on one side, defense on the other side, and they're doing install stuff. Like it's really not a super exciting but it's not like camp. Like watching camp, there's an urgency to it.
You kind of get
right. Yeah. Like you just don't get a whole lot of like live action where it's stuff you can really like report on.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah, like Brendan's going to be more comfortable. He's going to have a little bit better command of things. He's going to, now it's kind of like what we talked about, like in basketball, like a new guy coming in, it's hard to like establish yourself. But now that you've been there for a year, now, 40% of the roster is new. They don't really know if you've been there for 1 year or 4 years, or you're the quarterback, like you're the leader, like it's your team. So, obviously a little bit more comfortable in that, but there's not a whole lot I know this is going to break your heart because you want grand definitive statements about day one of spring ball, but there's just not a whole lot of like there's not a lot of meat on the bone on day one. The big thing is, I think, like when you're there for 12, 13, 15 practices, you get a sense of like who is what day to day. Like what's the consistency like? Is this guy a guy that I have in my notebook every day? Or is it a guy that you write about him on Monday and you might not hear about him again until next Wednesday? Like, I think that is the biggest from my standpoint as like an observer. That's kind of like what catches my eye. Who are these dudes that we're talking about out there making plays every day? And who are the guys that are going to splash occasionally? Because those guys will splash occasionally when the season gets here, but those shouldn't be the guys you're expecting to be super consistent when the season gets here. Like there are some trends, but you need, a handful or more of like practices to kind of sense those trends.
Yeah. A couple of things that are of note, obviously. You mentioned some position changes. Keegan tweeted it out as well. I don't know. I saw his. I don't know if you were tweeting it out as well, but
Sat mentioned it in the post-game press conference or the post-practice press conference. Okay. So that's where it came from.
Kai Stokes and Logan Wilson. Logan Wilson played a lot of safety last year. Obviously, you saw him numerous times making plays out there. Had the big interception against West Virginia that kind of looked like it was going to spur a chance to come back and win that game. And then Kai Stokes didn't really play too much, played very sparingly this past season. Is that just, you think, kind of the fact that it was just kind of Matthew McDoom who they brought in that cornerback position? Obviously, you lose Jordan Young. You have a couple of other pieces that you hope that they make that next step. Kind of younger players out there at the corner position. Maybe just spring is a good time to experiment and see, hey, can they hone in and lock down a cornerback role? And then obviously Sincere Lewis, good to see him back out there running around. I felt
like I saw a ghost.
Yeah.
39 out there. I was like,
how's
wait a minute. he looks
moving
pretty
around
good,
all right?
considering. Yeah,
Okay.
he's moving around pretty well. He was out. Again, it's the pod system on defense, so it's hard to tell like what are the ones and what are the twos. But he was out there with let's see. The first time I saw him, he was out there with Simeon Coleman and Jack Dingle.
Wow.
So, those are we anticipate those guys to be starters. And then he was out there later with Brian Sims and Jonathan Thompson. So those are guys that are going to be on the field, and he was right out there with them. Now, Golday is in orange.
Oh shit!
So there's a lot of guys in orange that are out there, but aren't out there during like the team stuff. So they don't end up going down on like my list of who was with each group because they're not going to be doing live contact, but they're out there practicing. They're not completely off to the side.
And
but
that's not abnormal in spring.
No. Golday was in that group. Dante was in that group. Royer was in that group. And plus, like those guys don't need a lot of mileage in the spring.
Right.
Like, you know what you're going to get from them. As long as you can get them out there and get them through the install stuff and they're doing some work with their teammates, like you don't have to see what they look like in 11 on 11. But yeah, I've been a big Sincere Lewis guy from the time he got here and looked like he could be a guy that could really help down the road. And then 2 season-ending injuries have taken that away from him. So, he's a guy that can cover. Like they were planning to play him in the old defense in like that Deshaun Pace nickel dime, cover guy type role. So he's a linebacker that can play in space as long as, the injuries haven't robbed him of any of that athleticism. But yeah, I'm a big Sincere Lewis guy. So hopefully he can get back on track. Cause I thought big things were in store for him when he got here, and he's just had the absolute worst luck.
He really has. One last thing out of me, and then I'll see if Ryan or Aaron want to pepper you at all. But obviously, no pads on. But just visually, that offensive line is it starting to mold into? Because obviously, the first round of Big 12 teams that came in through Nippert Stadium just noticeably bigger. Are you starting to see a little bit of additional size throughout the depth chart as far as the offensive line goes?
Well, nobody's the size of Kandra. I mean, he was built like a
Wreck-It Ralph. He looked like Wreck-It Ralph. No one's been saying
nobody's that size, so they don't have that. But Ethan Green is huge at left tackle. DeAndre Buford is a big dude. They're a little bit small, they're good because DT Tinsley was also pretty massive. Tarantayo is a big boy. Tengistal is a little shorter, but he's still big shoulders, big frame. They don't look like, Kansas rolled in here and everybody was like 6'5" plus, 310 plus. Like they don't look like that yet, but some good size. I do think they're going to be still in the market for a left tackle when we get to the spring. Like my understanding is there's funds reserved to get a left tackle when they get to the spring. So will they be able to beat out SEC teams for a left tackle? No.
Right.
But given whatever the left tackle market is, they will have a number in mind that they can go out and get a guy. I do expect to see an addition there. But we'll see how it works out for the spring. And look, man, I never thought I would say this given the way his career started, but replacing John Williams is going to be a big deal. Like he was rock solid last year. And finding a guy that gives you that consistency snap to snap is it's not going to be harder. It's not going to be easy.
No. There was a time where we talked about his motor, and he ended up being one of the most reliable guys. It's crazy, his career arc.
Yep.
Anything, Ryan or Aaron? Obviously, day one. There are plenty more days to come, but anything want to pepper chat with?
It's too early. I mean, I'm certainly very curious if we're not talking about the secondary to know what even the linebacking core looks like at this point in time without Jarrett Bartlett back there.
Well, I did want to say Logan Wilson, I think, will be a corner. Like, I think that move is permanent. Kai Stokes, I think, is just like, we want to get Kai on the field.
Yeah.
We're pretty damn deep at safety. Like, they've over the last 2 off seasons made a lot of additions at safety, and that room is pretty deep. So I think they're looking for a place for him to find playing time. So I don't know if that one is as permanent. I do expect Logan Wilson's move to corner to be pretty permanent. So sorry, Aaron. Carry on. My bad.
The other spot that I'm anxious to see is what do we have at defensive end? Because last year it was a glaring hole on this defense, probably more so than any other spot on the entire team. So that's and then I'm interested in what the special teams looks like.
Yep.
Gunners, returners, kicking, punting, all of it.
Coverage.
There's not a single spot on special teams I think that I'm not curious about to have some kind of update or storytelling of what's going on with special teams. So
we'll find out more when they get the pads on as far as like O-line, D-line. I did like just looking at him. CJ McCray, the Virginia Tech transfer, 6'4", 255, looks the part. The freshman that everybody has mentioned, Tim Griffin, looks the part. I don't know what he's going to be ready to do as a freshman, but him standing out there on the field, 6'5", 275, and like one of those dudes that like his helmet sticks up out over like everybody else's helmet comes down to about here on him. He looked very good. I didn't see him out on the field with the 1s and 2s, obviously, at this point, but and then I think the biggest name to watch on that defensive line is Marquez Parker. A lot of hype last year. He flashed a little bit last year. If they're going to get a guy that's ready to take that jump and be an impactful, get after the quarterback kind of guy, I think it's Parker. So this is a big offseason for Marquez Parker to show the staff that he's got the consistency and the day-to-day, get out there, get after it every time you're turned loose to make himself a guy that they can't take off the field. Because they need that. They need – why did Majay get on the field? Because nobody could do what Majay did. There wasn't anybody on that roster that could naturally, physically do the things that Majay did. Am I comparing him to Majay? No, they're different sizes, different types of players. But if there's one guy, I think, from the edge that can give you that level of talent, I think it's Parker. So that's a big deal for him to get. And then Micah Coleman, obviously returning from the Achilles. We'll see what that looks like for him. But I think this is a huge spring for Marquez Parker.
Okay. Royer?
It's hard for me. I'm going to need to check in at when the pads come on, because that's when shit really gets real and you can actually make some actual analysis on the guys and the overall units and who's performing, who needs to step it up. And so I think we'd just be filibustering.
Oh yeah, heard that. Anything else you want to sprinkle, Chad, or should we bounce on into that mailbag?
Have I had any tours of the practice facility? I have had the absolute worst luck on practice facility tours. Every time that they're going to do one and I can come, something comes up. Kelsey gets her. We were in the hospital at one point for her staph infection in her leg. Like I have had something come up every time. Keegan's been there a couple times. I'm going to do everything I can to make the next one. But as of yet, I have not been able to get inside there because of horrible timing on my part. Not UC's fault. They have had multiple tours. I have been invited to those tours. I have not been able to make them.
All right. Let's do that mailbag now.
Can't wait. All right. Starting in the football portion of the mailbag. What is the most unique thing you want to see or have seen at spring practice this year?
Unique. What's
Unique.
I mean, there's not a whole lot unique about it. Guys go out there and practice football.
Unique New York.
The arsonist had oddly shaped feet.
How do you catch a very fast bunny rabbit? Unique up on it.
Ha! Hey, Cale Woodburn. Anything with him at all today, or
he's small. He's
Man,
small and fast.
I thought we were gonna throw some bombs to him last season, and yet he was never there. So
he is listed at 5'10", 180.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice.
Or no, sorry, 5'10", 160.
Oh, wow.
Dakari Anderson is 5'8", 183. Cale Woodburn is 5'10", 160. He is still very thin.
Yes, that's
very thin.
Yes, very fast, very thin, very fast.
Well,
anything you want to see, Ryan?
Just overall improvement in coverage in the secondary against better receivers. And hopefully the receivers are showing that they are up to good competition and both groups get better. I agree on the defensive end side of thing too. You know, constant competition between the tackles and defensive ends getting better because those two positions are going to be really critical for us, both sides of the ball. So big emphasis, secondary
I think
and the edges.
The biggest thing also, I think, is you are starting to see just that overall general size elevate, like that Power 5, that power conference. You know, you're not seeing a lot of 6'1", 290 defensive ends anymore. You're starting to see them in that 6'4", 270, 6'5", 270 type range, which that was the biggest thing. Like that first year, man, again, Aaron and Brent were down there. The other teams would come out. We would all be like,
yeah, Oklahoma.
This ain't good.
What the?
Iowa State came out and it was like, oh.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Jason Richardson's mom, because remember, Jason Richardson was on a visit that one time. She looked at me. She was like, "These guys are way bigger than the Bearcats," and I was like, "Yeah,
yes, they are.
They are."
You weren't wrong, ma'am.
You are correct, ma'am.
Yes.
Your evaluation skills are astute.
Yes.
I think one of the unique things I want to see is I want to see them practicing special teams, and I want to see somebody fuck up, and I want to see 7 to 10 different coaches step out from the sideline to yell at every.
That would be unique.
That did confirm today. Like there's not a designated special teams coordinator. It is
7 to 10 coaches are out there.
Yeah, 7 to 10 coaches. Everybody's got their own little segment that they are coaching.
Just motherfucking everybody. It'd be fun. All right, which Big 12 team looks like they made a jump to the upper part of the league from their off-season moves? We're still trying to figure out what kind of jump we made from our off-season moves, much less everybody else.
The one that stands out is Texas Tech. They went out and spent a lot of money on improving their roster. A lot of money on improving their roster across the board. Like they went out and got a guy Like they went out and got dudes at every level of offense and defense. It felt like that have the ability to impact their season. So I'll go Texas Tech there.
The number three overall team in the entire country as far as transfer portal rankings, Texas Tech.
I'd be shocked if Oklahoma State is still in the basement. Mike Gundy's fighting for his job. You can't imagine that he can have 2 seasons like that, unless that kick to the head from the cow is still resonating, which still maybe the craziest thing that happened over the course of Oklahoma State's entire season last season. But I would just imagine that you would probably see a step forward for Oklahoma State. Him having 2 seasons is unheard of.
Well, yeah, this is what they do. Like they have a down year, and they have a year where everybody thinks they're going to be great and they underperform. And then the next year, everybody underrates them and they play in the Big 12 championship game. Like there's wild swings with Gundy, probably because of the haircut. Like that's sometimes you have the power of the mullet, sometimes you don't.
And no one has been kicked by a cow twice in 2 seasons. So we'll see.
I wouldn't put it past him.
I wouldn't put anything past that guy. What do you expect from the wide receiver and tight end room this year?
Improvement. Like you got a year 2 with Joe Royer, with Brendan Sorsby. Like you can't have. Felt like there were stretches of 2 or 3 games where you just wouldn't hear Joe Royer's number called. Wide receiver, it's too early to know. Like we were at this exact same point last year where we were watching a bunch of dudes and going, that guy looks pretty good. That guy looks pretty good. And then we got to the season and they weren't. So you've got, in the tight end room, you've got Gerd to kind of be that H-back, fullback, kind of jack of all trades, inline blocker. You've got Royer to be the pass catcher, and then you got the young bulls and Zahersky, who had a nice catch today, and Gavin Grover that you hope to see start showing that they're going to be ready when their numbers are called here this year and into next year, where they'll be primary guys.
Yeah, I want to see Royer show glimpses of being the best tight end in the country. So that's what I want to expect, and that is what I expect. So let's go. Giddy up.
And that ends the football portion of the mailbag. Moving over to the basketball portion of the mailbag. Over Wes's 14 seasons as a head coach, his team's average rank for free throw rate is 300. At what point do we admit this is a coaching/philosophy issue? It seems like we blame the players, but the numbers show this is a coaching problem.
I've blamed it on the coaching. It is a philosophy issue. I have said they need to go into the portal and find guys that excel at getting to the free throw line and then allowing them to get there. We blame it on like Jizzle. Like that's Jizzle's fault. He does not play to contact. He has not played to contact since he got here. He did not play to contact in AAU. He is a guy that uses that pull up and uses kind of that spin fadeaway. That is on Jizzle. That's why I talk about that in relation to Jizzle James. Day Thomas does, like Day gets fouled a lot and they don't call it. Like I don't.
Yeah.
You see Day once or twice a game, and when that happens, you probably get a little gun shy that you're not going to get the call. Yeah. But it is something that's not very prevalent in the way that West coaches offense. I think that needs to change because it is very difficult to survive and win in this league if you're attempting 6, 8, 10 free throws a game. It's just not you don't get enough boost to your offense. You make it so heavily dependent on putting the ball in the basket. Go look at the games when they've shot free throws, when they've gotten to the line. Those are the games that the offense has played the best. So, yes, it is a coaching philosophy issue. So it's not the gotcha moment that you think it is. It is something they need to figure out. They need to figure it out with the guys that they have in-house if they return. And I think it's something they need to prioritize when they go into the portal. Play more to contact. Get guys that get downhill and aren't afraid to get all the way to the rim and create contact and get to the free throw line. It is not something they have done well since Wes got here. It is something that I do not remember many teams being great that just didn't get to the free throw line.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to see that, and obviously there's 6 more games last season than added on with the postseason, but through the regular season this year, I mean, Day attempted 33 more free throws last year. Dan Skillings, obviously he was injured, but earlier this year, but he attempted 73 more free throws last season than he has this year. It's just some jaw dropping numbers. But like you mentioned, Jizzle, he's already attempted 4 more free throws this season than he did all of last year, and that was with 6 additional games last season for Jizzle. So
there are 364 teams in the country.
Yeah.
Cincinnati is 362nd in point distribution off of free throws. 13.1% of their points come from the free throw line, and that is terrible.
The throw line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you go watch a Memphis
number one.
Yeah.
Number one is Tarleton State.
Oh, wow.
24.8%. 25% of their points come from the free throw line. It doesn't have to be that.
Right.
But it's got to be up 20 plus. It can't be down at 13.
You know who I bet doesn't cost a ton of NIL dollars? Tarleton State's best player. Sounds like a great 12th man.
It's wild. I mentioned it a little bit. Just saying, go look at a game, a Memphis game. PJ Haggerty, he's gotten to the line this year. 238 times, and then you add in Dane Danger, their big man, 124 times. Those are like 238 is an insane amount of times heading to the free throw line. Cincinnati on the year has a total of 433 trips to the line. So it's not good. The volume is way too low.
Brent, there is surprisingly many more Big 12 teams than I expected at the bottom of this list, though.
I do feel like it's efficient. Like Houston doesn't really get to the free throw line much. It's a weird thing. Like I noticed that too when kind of diving into those numbers. I feel like is that kind of how it's officiated? Maybe, I don't know. It's a weird type of thing, but
just looking at the list, Texas Tech is 295th. They get 17% of their points from the free throw line. Houston is 321st. They get 16% of their points from the free throw line. Mm-hmm. For Houston, though, it's not as big of an issue because they're so efficient from 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Like they don't necessarily. Cincinnati's not efficient from 2 and 3.
Oh,
not at all. It's Texas Tech, kind of the same boat. Like you don't have to rely on getting to the free throw line if you're going to be one of the most efficient offenses in the country.
Yeah.
If you're going to be one of the least efficient offenses in Power 5 basketball,
you got to get free throws.
You got to do something to get that number up.
But my favorite thing that Aaron says in every aftermath is for most teams, they're free. But for the Bearcats, they're just throws. It's pretty good, Aaron. I'll give that to you.
You're welcome.
But Kansas is down there. Kansas is 357. So if you're looking for reasons to fade Kansas, that's why. Team that doesn't get to the free throw line. West Virginia, 338. Kansas State, 325. Houston, 321. So there's a lot of teams down around that 300 and below line in the Big 12. Far more than I expected.
Yeah.
All right. Obviously, here in the UC bubble, things are pretty negative right now. You don't say. but on a national level among college basketball insiders, coaches, agents, scouts, reporters, etc., who do this for a living. How is Wes viewed as a coach and program builder?
The ones I talked to have been pretty surprised that this kind of flatlined this year. It's not what the fan base makes it out to be, that they fell off a cliff. They didn't fall off a cliff, they flatlined. They did not get any better, really, or any worse than they were in this conference a season ago. And they've been surprised because generally everybody thought this team was going to be able to take a step up. And there's a million different reasons you can look at as to why, whatever narrative, like, they have been bad enough that whatever narrative you want to create, you can get from point A to point B. If you want it to be the coaching, you can find it where it's the coaching. If you want it to be the players, you can find it to where it's the players. If you want to pick out individual players and it's this guy or it's that guy, or they weren't good enough at this or they weren't good enough at that. Like, they gave everybody enough ammo to fit whatever narrative they want to create as to why this team didn't take a step up. I think there is legitimately, like, is he going to be able to cut it at this level? Like, that question wasn't really out there prior to this year. But then you have a team basically end up exactly where they ended up, a little bit worse than a year ago. The questions start to arise, is this jump too big for him? And that wasn't there prior to the season. I think after last year, everybody was like, okay, first year in the league, they held their own. They did lose a bunch of close games, but like they didn't look outclassed in the league. And this year, I don't want to say they looked completely outclassed, but they didn't look good enough. Like, go back and watch all the aftermaths. They clearly did not consistently look good enough to be a team that won 11, 12, 13 games like we expected. Brent probably went 15. But they didn't get there. So everybody's going to look around and go, okay, what went wrong? Why? And can he fix it? That is the biggest question we're going to have to figure out or talk about throughout the offseason, but we won't figure it out until January rolls around next year and we see if he's got a team that can compete in this league. We don't know right now. We know they don't suck, but we also know they aren't good enough to get over the hump. They've been to the hump. Like it's the the roller coaster where it starts to go up the hill and then something goes wrong and then it just either goes back down or they got to like come up and get you. This year was they had to come up and get you and have you evacuate and walk down those wooden steps away from the roller coaster.
If you have time to go back and do his chat ass and go back and watch all of the aftermaths, God bless you. My goodness. I wish that upon not my worst enemy.
You'd wish that upon your worst enemy.
No.
Yeah.
Just Oklahoma State. I'd wish that one. Ugh. Who would you rank as top 3 of the Bear casuals, meaning top 3 players of worst effort in conference play? I like the callback to the Bear casuals. Well done, Mother Coconuts.
Just this year?
I mean, yeah.
Dan and Seamoss.
I mean, I don't think Seamoss's effort was overly bad, other than he was never a got box out guy. Like, you knew that him coming in, he wasn't going to put a body on anybody and box out.
Never defense guy.
Yeah, well, he's slow. He's white and he's slow. Like, that's hard to defend at this level if you're big, white, and slow. You
don't get to be white on defense and clear on offense. It's not how it works.
Dan, you could. I mean, I don't have a problem if you put Seamoss in there. In comparison to everybody else, he probably belongs. And then Page. Those are the three biggest culprits for me.
Yep. Agreed.
All right. If we start out 2-8 again next year in Big 12 play, could you see Wes being replaced mid-year, or are we committed to him through year 5, come hell or high water?
I do not see John Cunningham replacing a coach midseason.
I concur.
Anybody else? Do you guys see him doing it?
No.
Mid-season would be weird. You limit your search. Are you just going to have replace him with
No,
Ballard?
you expand your search if you do it mid-season. That's why people do it mid-season, so that you can get started on hiring the next coach.
I don't know. I am of the mindset that I don't see John.
I don't either.
Quitting.
But I don't think that's why. Like, why is because you do things the right way and you don't fire coaches mid-season. You give them till the end of the year.
Also, the buyout decreasing April 1st and not prior to.
But you can't do that. Like, if you're going to fire a coach, it's going to be before April 1st. You are committing program suicide if you fire a coach April 1st. You don't hire a new coach until the middle of April and the portal's about to close and your whole team is in it. If you're going to fire a coach, you're going to do it in March.
Change that wording to March 1st.
That's not how that works.
Slide it in there. It's fine.
Yeah.
Chad, what is your job grade on Wes 4 years and our AD positives and negatives? Also, you have indicated it takes time to be competitive in the Big 12. Are we on the right track, or do changes need to be made?
Right now, I'd say Wes is probably a C, maybe a C minus. That would have been, I would have had him at probably a B minus last year. Close, but couldn't get over the hump. And then this year was a little bit even more dramatic. He probably would be like, if they won the last two, probably would have been in like a C plus range. You finished 9-11, like you're not that far off from where you were supposed to be. You finished 7-13. That's a pretty big gap. So the grade drops because you failed the final exam. So yeah, I mean, Brent, go ahead. I'll let you. But
I mean, yeah.
I mean, that's what I think it is. I don't think there's a whole lot else that needs to be said. They didn't get the job done. They didn't meet expectations.
I mean, it would be a B if you went to the tournament one time.
Yeah, probably C minus.
If you went, yeah, I'm between a D and a C minus. But it's not like he had losing seasons every year. But
right. Everybody's calling it an unmitigated disaster. They've never experienced an unmitigated disaster.
Right. I mean, it's not an F because there was, the NIT appearances. But I mean, to be honest, if it's year 4 and you don't make the tournament, and I know there's a lot of other outside things here and there, but for me, that is you're not passing. So I guess a D plus, but I mean, you're right there teetering between C minus and
it's passing, but it's not good. I
agree.
If Kelsey brought home a C minus, we would be having to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, Roy, are you? Because I mean, it's just our standards need to be higher. We are not UCF, we are not Boston College. We are not Minnesota. So standards need.
The problem is right now they're stuck in a very uncomfortable place, which is not quite good enough. Right? You're in that 40 to 60 range, 40 to 50, 55 range, where
purgatory.
You're constantly going to be just on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And for a fan, that's the worst place to be.
Oh, I hate
at least if you're bad, you can just check out.
Right?
I'm not putting up with
Kenny Payne, just bring me the pain.
You just check out and you go away until until it's better. Like, this is, for a fan, the ultimate nightmare, because we're talking about the tournament all the way until the second week in March, and then you shit the bed, and now you've got until November to deal with the fact that season was okay. There were some good times. There weren't enough of them. And then I got a real bad taste at this and this and this and this.
Right.
So, yeah, I'll settle on C-. Cunningham, look, they're not winning in football and basketball right now. So you're going to be in that C- range. Maybe a D+. Like, you've made 2 hires. Neither of them have crossed the threshold into people being happy about their performance, I guess is a good way to put it. Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not.
Give us some grades.
I'm not. I'm right in the same boat as both of you guys, but I don't feel great about the track we are on. I don't feel like there's anything pushing me into the positive optimism side about things. Nothing feels like it's just about to break through. Like, NIL doesn't feel like we're never going to be like an NIL like powerhouse. The facilities are getting better with that. I mean, I guess that's a plus, but like the performance across the board, it doesn't feel like we're stepping away from like being the newcomers, that we're moving towards an established Big 12 program across the board in all athletics. I guess baseball's been a little bit of a boost, but
it is really hard to continuously punch above your weight. And if you want to look back, the reason for the longest time that Cincinnati has been in the position that they've been in is they've almost always been in leagues where they are, if not the biggest dog, one of the bigger dogs. Always. You saw a little bit with the Big East, but the money hadn't exploded to that point in time. So, yes, you were behind when you first got into the league, but you were able to catch up fairly quickly. And then we saw them rise to the top of football and then very competitive in basketball. They never quite got to the top of the Big East in basketball. The difference right now is that the money gap is substantial. You're dealing with, 8 old Big 12 programs, and then 4 Pac-12 programs, and then BYU, who has a national following, national fan base, and is their own kind of financial entity, that have all been dealing with this financial windfall for a long ass time. They have racks on racks. They've been spending and living in this neighborhood for a lot longer than Cincinnati. And until financially Cincinnati's getting a full share and is able to get a couple, a year or two of getting the full share, getting on even footing, they're going to be swimming upstream. They're not the bully at the table anymore. They're not. They're the new kid in school, and the new kid in school doesn't get to sit with the cool kids very often. And I don't know how long it's going to take. I know it's going to take. I know it's not just how fans want it. Oh, we're in, we're good. Like, money dominates everything in today's college sports landscape. And Cincinnati is still getting on the track to be even with the rest of their peers monetarily. The good thing about this league is, though, there's not an Alabama. There's not an Ohio State. So if you hold the line and you allow this process to play itself out, there isn't some giant entity that you can never catch. So there is a track to get there. You're on the right track. You just can't freak out because it's a little bumpy. Like you're not riding on the smooth tracks right now. The tracks have not been fully upgraded. So it's going to be a little bumpy on your way to get there. But when you're looking at what you're trying to catch up with, like you're not racing Usain Bolt. You're going to get on an even playing field with pretty much this entire conference. But you're not going to do it until the checks start cashing.
My concern, Chad, is that, okay, so the playing field gets evened here in a couple years with the sharing. We've shown no, like, ability to kind of like separate ourselves at all. So I'm like, all right, we're all going to be equal now. Are we really going to grow and kind of grow out of the bottom feeder even when we are
we
equal?
We don't know that answer because we're not equal, right?
I know.
They're going to cash an $18-19 million check from the Big 12 on July 1st, 2025, right? Yeah. And then they're going to be forced to spend $20 million in rev share. While everybody else is getting $40 to $50 million, $30 million left over, and then 20 goes to rev share. Cincinnati is going to take everything that they get, essentially, and that money is going to have to go into rev share to pay the players. Mm-hmm. That is not on an even playing field. They're not even close to an even playing field yet. So it's hard to judge until they get there, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I get what I was trying to say was I haven't felt any sense of like, oh, I know we don't have the best hands in the deck right now. I completely agree with that. I don't feel like there's been really any glimmers of hope or any bit of like making the best out of what we have to kind of say, hey, you know what, fuck all that. Like we're going to make do with what we got, and we're going to find ways to scratch and claw as a athletic kind of establishment across the board to kind of, you know, be better than like the cards that we were dealt. And so what I'm getting at is when everyone has a fair deck of cards, if we weren't really grinding and pushing through the adversity before, finding ways to succeed, finding ways to kind of be better.
We had the most money then, though, Ryan. In the American, UC had the most money. It's easy to be the bully when you got all the cards.
But we were then taking those cards, and then we were outplaying people when we came up to the stage, and we were saying, hey, we might be little brother when we go up and play like the Big Ten teams, when we go play the SEC teams, Notre Dame, like across the board, football and basketball. But it kind of showed that like we had an established vision, an established kind of path that was a trending upwards type of smaller school, so to say, when you compare those things. I don't feel that we're trending.
Mick left, Luke left.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that we don't seem to have the personnel right now that's making me feel like these guys are going to drag us out of this, and they haven't been dragging us out of the already more difficult situations we're put in. So I'm like, when we get even, if we have the same people that weren't able to kind of like pull us along, are they really going to pull us into out of average and start climbing up to the top of this conference? Because that's where we need to be, because we can't be average.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I want, like, it should be, because like, you know, there's plenty of greatness. There's legacies across the board here. Basketball more than football, but obviously football, you know, really caught momentum here in the past 5 years with Luke, and you don't want to see all that just go to waste, and we return to being a bottom of the barrel. And I'm just trying to. I don't want. It just feels like we've been so below average the past 2 years across the board. It almost is, nothing is really making me feel optimistic that we're going to get dragged out of that, even when we get more money.
What happens when you lose?
Yeah, I know.
It's what happens when you have opportunities. This is the frustrating part, Ryan, and this is the part that I understand. they have had opportunities in football and basketball in the past 2 years to change kind of that perception, and they have not been able to get over the hump in games where that opportunity is there. Like, I'm not talking about what happened in a blowout loss to Houston. I'm talking about Kansas State, or in football, just pick Pitt, but pick any of the games in conference where Texas Tech, where they've got a situation where they get the game to overtime, they've got a chance to win it. If they win it, perception flips a little bit, and they don't win it. Like, that's where Cunningham, Satterfield, Wes have to be better. And that's what I've talked about on the basketball side, losing those 2 Kansas State games, losing those 2 West Virginia games. Like, those aren't games against people that are too. Yeah, those aren't games against people that are significantly outclassing you in the arms race. So you're in the same ballpark with them, and you have an opportunity to change perception by winning those games. That's where I see like where you're coming from. I think that is where a lot of it is coming from, is that if they were even just a little better in those situations, the conversation we're having is much different, which means they're not far off, but it feels like a mile. Like they're 50 meters off, but it feels like they're a mile away, because these things pile up and it begins to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is, I think, what you're worried about, is that when are we going to see that evidence that they can get over the hump, that it's not going to become an every year thing. And that's why the athletic director is getting a C- or a D+. That's why the head coach is getting a C-. Like, you have got to find a way to go from that middle group to just a little bit above it, because that little bit above it builds momentum. That little bit below it feels like you're all the way at the bottom when you're not, but it just feels that way because it feels like you keep getting kicked in the nuts every time you get kicked in the nuts, you fall down, it hurts, you struggle a little bit, you get back up, you get your confidence back, and then you get kicked in the nuts again. Yeah. And I think that's the frustration that everybody has, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because for me, like, I didn't grow up here, but I've spent the last 8 years of my life here. And I think I could say that, like, Cincinnati's kind of, it's not like a big glamorous city. It's like, it's the state of Cincinnati. It's like a prideful, tough, gritty town. And you make the best out of what you have, and you outwork, out tough other cities, other programs. You could go across the board in sports. And I'm just not feeling like that finding a way type of mentality across like football and basketball right now. And I think, and it just kind of stings more to me, because like that's kind of our MO as a university, as a town.
Yeah, sure.
And not seeing that and not feeling it, is concerning. It's like, I don't like moving to a new conference. There's a lot of bullshit involved, but it almost feels like we're kind of losing our identity in all this bullshit of NIL and revenue sharing, all that, when it's like, at the end of the day, like, this university is built on tough, nasty kind of go-getters and making the best out of what you have. And it has to start from the top. It can't always be, well, we don't have the best cards right now, and we're close. But like this university is about getting through, just being just close and finding a way to win games, to excel in the classroom, excel on the field, excel as a city. And Cincinnati's a great town. It's a tough town. It's a prideful town. And, I know we all feel the same way of, we expect more, because that's what this, university is built on. And we want to feel that our coaches, our university, our administration, our higher ups within the university are all on the same page, as it, like, yeah, we might be like behind the 8 ball some way, but we're scratching, clawing, and fighting and showing growth and promise. And that's been kind of, this basketball season has really started to kind of kick me in the nuts with that. And if we don't, if we don't start moving in that direction, we're going to end up like, look at some of those teams that expanded in the Big Ten. They're still bottom of the barrel, like Maryland and Rutgers, and that's the tradition of excellence and winning is so important here. And I don't want to. If we just got to get on the right track from the top down. Of we're not going to be a team that takes 8 years to crack the top 25% of the Big 12 and be established by then. Like, we have to push through this shit. So
I'm just saying, I think it is fair to, before we go completely off the ledge, see what it looks like when they're financially on the same playing field as some of these schools, and they're not.
Yeah.
Like, there are 3 schools dealing what UC is dealing with, Ryan. UC, Houston, and Central Florida. And the only program for any of those schools that is living up to that is Houston basketball, which was already on, an absolute heater when they came into the league.
Yeah.
And everybody else, every other program is struggling to get to that level. And I think a large part of it is because financially, it's a lot more of a challenge than fans want to realize when you only get dealt the bottom half of the deck, and the other teams that are still here are getting all the aces and kings and queens and jacks.
Yeah.
And you're getting a bunch of 7s and 4s.
Yeah.
You can win with 7s and 4s, but sure is a lot fucking harder than it is to win with aces and kings.
Yeah. And I liked your point before. It's like when you're going up against other players that have 7s and 4s, you should expect to be, rising to the top above them a lot more than we have been. I think that was a good point that you drew there about how we haven't been doing that. So the fire alarms just keep blaring even louder.
Yeah.
Win a couple of those games in football and basketball, Ryan, and the tone is completely different.
Yeah.
But they haven't, so the tone is what it is.
Yeah.
They've got to get better at that shit. That's like where the soul searching needs to come from in the offseason. We can't keep blowing these chances against teams we can beat. Yeah. There are going to be teams you can't beat because of the way the NCAA is set up.
Mm-hmm.
But given that, you can't blow the chances against the teams you can beat. And they've blown too many of those chances.
Yeah, we've just been stagnant. We're not growing.
Yeah. I concur. How's that for a 30-minute mailbag question answer?
All right, D-Wank.
Aaron's
pulling it out of us. Go ahead.
Moving on. Tell us about Michael, I guess Michael Perez, Drew Adams connection here. Where does UC stand in his recruitment?
I wouldn't spend too much time on it.
Hooray.
It's a young guy. It's a young guy in France. He's talented, but he's young. He's raw. He's not, even if they get him, he's not going to be a guy that comes, it's not Igor Demin that's going to come in here. I think everybody looks at every European player and just assumes like, oh, he's from Europe, he's going to be a fucking stud. No, this is a kid that's talented. He's performing well at the under 17 level internationally, but he would come in as a pretty standard freshman that could maybe help you a little bit. But before anything would happen with him, I think a lot of it's going to come down to what happens in the portal as to whether, you add a guy like him or not. So there is interest. It is a Drew Adams connection. I just wouldn't get out over my skis about anything with him at this point. But I know everybody gets excited. That's what those guys drop those articles for, is to get clicks.
He's got an interesting highlight tape. I'll just say that.
He does, but you can tell he's very raw.
Yeah. Very.
Lived through 3 years of one of those. Who from the football team are you taking with you to the Crown if you need 1 to 3 roster spots just to have dudes play?
Grover, Caldwell, Royer, Lichtenberg.
Can you still take Prater?
Evan was at practice today.
Technically,
He's
you
obvious-
can, yeah.
I'm
The
just
Longwood
saying.
receiver, Chad.
Yeah, Jeff
Linden.
Caldwell. Lindenwood.
But
Linden
Chad's favorite, Longwood, yeah.
My favorite, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of snow. A lot of snow at Longwood.
Too much sometimes is what they say.
Ethan Green's a big boy. Like that's a
he was a
6'8".
wrestler, though.
I know. Exactly.
We need a 4. A big boy that you can pound the ball
Put him
around
in at the
with.
5, 6'8", 315 pounds, and you put him in there and just hammer people.
Yeah.
Connor Barwin can
The
do it.
enforcer.
Ethan Green can do it.
Yeah. I hear you.
A goon.
Mhm.
All right, I think that's enough on that question.
Yeah.
Steph Curry just took a gig with Davidson to become their assistant GM. Any chance Wes or Cunningham reach out to SK or a former player with business acumen to become UCs?
Steph
No.
Curry just gave a bunch of money.
Yeah. No. There's nobody at UC that is connected at that level of youth basketball that I would bring in.
Or is there
Dude.
anyone
It
from
has-
UC that
Travis.
has gotten
Travis
multiple
Kelce.
max contracts?
I think you got
Yeah,
NBA
Travis
sent.
Kelce.
I think you got NBA sentelled BC Babin. I don't think that was real that he's coming in as an assistant GM.
No, he is.
He
Is he
is,
really?
but it's just to donate
Yeah,
money.
it's just he's just giving a bunch of money to the men's and women's basketball programs.
$10 million to the men's and women's basketball fund, and then he's the
NIL
assistant
funds, yeah.
GM. Basically, so they can say like Steph is our assistant.
He's putting it on
GM.
he's putting it on his LinkedIn.
Right. Is he going to be making calls in the transfer portal?
Nah.
Come on.
Hello, this is Stephen Curry. You may have heard of me. Bigger factor in why this team wasn't good enough at the top of the roster: missed talent evals or poor offseason development.
Is it bad to say both?
I think it is. I think that's probably the right answer for this question, Brent. I think also it is expecting too much of a jump. Like, okay, they're coming back. That instantly means they're going to be significantly better.
Dan's going to go from averaging 13 to averaging 18.
17, 18, yeah.
Jiffle's going to go from averaging 9.5 to averaging 17. And then CMOS is going to shoot 45% from 3.
But the answer is a combo of both. But you miss talent evals. The reason it's a combo of both is you miss talent evals because of poor offseason development. And poor offseason development leads to missed talent evals. I don't think Jizzle had a bad offseason. I think he was bad in January.
Yeah.
When they needed him to be really good.
Right.
Dan fell flat on his face. There is no argument about that, Raj. Hopefully we don't have to talk about it ever again in 14 days.
That'd be something. In an NCAA era where there are no rules and donor fundraising is crucial, does it really make sense to have a compliance expert leading the athletic department?
Probably not. Being honest, there are no rules. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
What is spending a bunch of time on compliance? Not that I think they spend a whole lot of time on compliance anymore, but I can tell you as recently as a couple years ago, they were making people jump through compliance hoops that I know nobody else was making people do. Perfect example, like going to basketball practice in the summer, going to workouts. Like high school coaches had to sign, state that they were coming to basketball practice and then go up to the 8th floor or whatever and sign in, and everybody else was just letting those coaches come to practice, just create layers of bureaucracy that nobody else was adhering to, that Cincinnati was sticking to the letter of the law. Dumb.
Cool. Which Big 12 team do you expect to go furthest in the NCAA tournament? I'm rocking with Texas Tech. I'm not. That's the UCLA. Oh, wait, is.
It's not a bad choice.
No, I think they're pretty damn good, but I think it is Houston's year. I think finally they have enough like pieces to the point where like if they incurred some sort of an injury or some sort of a lull, they're going to have some other players that can step up and fill the void. So it's the easy out probably, but I do think that this year, especially those top teams are kind of a little bit in a league of their own. And I think Houston's just one of those top teams.
I'm interested to see if BYU can keep this run going.
Yeah.
They've done it home. They've done it away. This hasn't been like they've done it on the strength of like shooting out of their minds at home. And, but I mean, if you go down the list, like just on Ken Palm rank, Houston and Texas Tech are the easy answers.
Yeah.
Arizona, I want to love.
Right.
But Caleb Love can shoot you out of a game at any given point. And if you go 4 tournament games, there's going to be an NCAA tournament game where Caleb Love goes 5 of 23.
Yeah.
Can Arizona overcome that?
I'll say Kansas might go further than people think. Like the metrics love Kansas. So I don't
on offense.
I don't personally think they will, but don't be surprised if they're still sitting there in the Sweet 16.
I think BYU defensively their defense isn't good. The thing I like about BYU is they rebound the hell out of the basketball. So, they're going to give up some points, but if you miss, you're generally one and done. And that plays in the tournament. That's why I like BYU. But they also could be a team that has a bad shooting night and it blows up in flames. I guess the other one is Iowa State. And I thought that was an Elite 8 Final Four team a month ago. It is hard to see the ocean from the beach on Iowa State being an Elite 8 Final Four team right now.
Yeah. I think Houston's the safe answer. Obviously.
Houston and Texas Tech, 1A, 1B, like pick one.
Right.
JT Toppin is going to ball out in the tournament. Big 12 Player of the Year, JT Toppin.
How about it?
He's really good.
Only one honorable mention for your Bearcats.
That is the basketball portion of the mailbag. The baseball portion of the mailbag. How about that? Jordan Bitchell has 42 wins in a season and a quarter after taking over a severely underperforming UC baseball program while making the leap into the Big 12. Baseball is much harder to rebuild than hoops. That's your opinion. What do you attribute his immediate success to?
Bishop ball, of course.
He's got a really fun, interesting style of play.
It's completely unique. Not everybody's trying to do the little things like he's doing as far as stealing bases and bunt for hits. And like you see other teams try to
stealing runs.
You see other teams try and start doing it by like game 2 or 3 of a series where they're like, oh, I guess we can also do some of this stuff. That makes sense. And I don't know that it's even necessarily something that you can keep doing and it's going to continue to have the same effect. I think it has to evolve. But the guys are having fun. I think that makes a monumental difference in a dugout compared to losing a bunch of games in basketball.
Also, the pitching has been pretty good. if the pitching continues to be pretty good, you're going to continue to have a bunch of success.
And coach has mentioned on this show numerous times, it's like confidence and the whole team buying in, and he's had confidence and buy-in for a long, long time. Ever since they had their, out the gates stumbled a little bit last year. Now it's just you can just sense it each game. They just have that added confidence to them.
That ends the baseball portion of the mailbag. Moving on to the banks. The last question here. What is one thing that you figured out way too late in life? For me, it was the fact that I did interpersonal communications as a major instead of mass communications. I would have made all of this way easier, I think.
I don't know. It's a little too deep for me.
Yeah, it's pretty.
It is. I wasn't ready.
Yeah. Wow.
Maybe arguing with stupid people is a waste of your time.
Okay. Yeah.
I did a lot of that for a long time, and I've kind of phased out of it.
I like that. Not everything's so serious.
More about who you know rather than what you know.
Oh,
I figured that out pretty early. I figured that one out pretty early.
So.
Lawyer, believe me, that is very much the truth. So, definitely.
Cotillion Brent knows all about who you know.
Please.
The wedding guy.
Hey, baby. We got a few fall weddings coming up this year. How about that?
Of course you do.
We're back.
That's the mailbag. Get us out of here, Brent.
Well, I hope you all are ready for a little basketball. That's right. Big Ball Tournament is here. And it is.
Put us out of our misery.
Little 12:30 tip tomorrow afternoon. I mean, literally, it's only 14 hours away. Should we just stay up together? Keep the pod rolling? Might as well. Just stay locked into that, guys. Shouts to the baseball team. Good question. They did win 5 games last week. That's a pretty good week in my book, right? I think so. So shouts to them. But shouts to Danco Transmission and Auto Care. Shouts to Quick Paper Supply. And shouts to New Riff, the last month, where I get to riff with Royer. And
we should be live tomorrow around 3:00 with the aftermath. That's the plan.
Okay. After a joyous start to quite a long run through March.
We need a baseball team run.
There we go. But yeah, shouts to everyone. And hey, hi here. And shouts to the guys. Great pod, a marathon pod, if you will. We did a great job today, guys. So shouts to Aaron.
It would have been fine if we didn't have a half-hour mailbag question.
D-Wank, baby. D-Wank bringing the
trajectory question.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. But guys, it's a great one. Big 12 tournament starts tomorrow. Lock in. Gonna have continuous coverage of the spring football practices here on BCJ. So, but for the crew, for the squad, for everyone, Aaron Smith, Chad Brendel, Ron Royer, I am Brent Young. Yet again, another fantastic Baby P presented by BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!